Good afternoon, friends, and welcome back to yet another Fridays with Mrs. Ginny. I mean, every word Wednesdays with Mrs. Ginny. And this is our third week. And so, guys, I'm reaching out. I need some help. Um, Being that I have this new show that I'm doing now every Wednesday, I want to get a theme song or like an opening sequence, title sequence, like I have for Fridays with Mrs. Ginny. But the lady who did my opening sequence for Fridays with Miss Ginny, she is not available right now. And so I need some help. And what I mean by that is that I need free help. Okay. And so if any of you have the ability or know of maybe just a software that I could use, I'm not very tech savvy. I made the original intro to Fridays with Mrs. Ginny, if you remember that, or if you've seen one of my older streams. I made that one, and I like that one. I mean, that one was good enough for me. But I prefer the one that my friend made, and so I want one of that similar quality. And so she's pretty tech savvy, and so if any of you are tech savvy, then please let me know if you are willing to help. Doesn't need to be long; could just be like a minute or two. And then I would also like an accompanying outro to match it like I have for the Friday one. So I need help with that. And I also need help learning how to make iced cold brew coffee because every time I make it, it's very weak and I can't put milk in it because then the milk just waters it down even further and I can't put ice in it. And I'm like, this is not right. I've been making it for a few times and every time I make it, it's too weak. And I'm like, do I just need to continue to add more and more beans to it? And I'm like, I feel like I'm adding more and more each time and it's still very weak. I'm letting it steep for a long time. Anyways, if y'all do that, let me know. And was there another thing? That might have been the only two things. Or maybe, I'm not sure. But anyways, let's jump right into our word for this Wednesday. Welcome back, Lionel. Yesterday you said that you've been very consistent over here, and you have. Right on time, very consistent, staying for the whole stream. So we love that. You are a 5-star viewer, Lionel. I appreciate you so much. And so for this week, I really didn't know what I wanted to talk about. Nothing was really jumping out at me that I wanted to discuss. But just yesterday, the idea of talking about the word giants came to me because it's kind of like I'm moving in a linear succession. So the original week, we talked about the phrase, a son of God, and then we moved to sons of God. And now we're moving to giants, which people claim are the children of the sons of God when they mingled and married with the daughters of men, which is not the case because like last week we debunked that sons of God means angels, which, it does not. If you watched last week, then you are more than well versed in that area now. And so this week we're going to be talking about giants. And so what are giants? Who were the giants? It's interesting that if you're following along in your concordance, then you'll see that the phrase giant or giants does not make an appearance in the New Testament. It's only an Old Testament appearance. Why is that? I don't know, but I found it interesting. And so we'll be talking about that. Are they these, outlandish skyscraper high, just humongous, like an eyeball, like the size of your head type people? Or are they just people who are a little bit taller than the normal? Which sounds more practical. And I feel like one of the reasons that people will say that, the giants were these humongous people, because of this one passage that we'll touch on, of course, where that phrase is used. But also because the Bible is not foreign to fantastical ideas. I admit that. The Bible talks about some outlandish things, some supernatural things, some impossible things if God had not been involved. And I understand that. And I accept that. I believe that a donkey talked to a man. I believe that dead people rose from the dead, that rose back to life. I believe in waters being parted and standing up straight and people walking on the ground beneath that was dry. I believe in all that. It's fantastical. It's very outlandish. It's wild, but I believe in that. And I believe that the Bible is clear on those things, that they are literal and not meant to be metaphorical or figurative. But do giants fall into that category of things that are outlandish and fantastical, but are still true? No. And so I don't know if this is a translational error. I don't know where people are getting this idea from. I think it might be just a little bit of intentional misinformation where people want to make the Bible sound as crazy as they can and as wild-eyed as they can. And so they'll just put this label on the Bible, when in reality, it doesn't require quite nearly as much fanfare as people want to make it out to be. And so we're going to jump right in, folks. So, you don't have to take my word for it. We're going to go through each time that this word is used, giant and giants, since neither of them are used in an excessive amount of times. And so we can do both and get a complete understanding of this word. And so I knew you wouldn't be far behind. I knew you were on your way over here, Beak. And so thank you so much for being another loyal viewer, always very consistent, supportive. And I just want to let you know I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys who are so consistent so much, because I really enjoy doing these streams, and I enjoyed even more knowing that other people are enjoying it and actually getting something from it. So always wonderful to have you. All right. So starting up, we're going to go with the word giant. And then once we're done looking at giant, then we're going to go into giants. And so here, our first introduction to the word giant is Job chapter 16, verse 14. And it says, he breaketh me with a breach upon breach, and he runneth upon me like a giant. Guys, my ability to read has gone down since I've been pregnant. I'm going to blame all of my flaws on pregnancy from here on out. And once I'm no longer pregnant, then we'll see what I'm going to blame it on then. Maybe I'll just blame it on postpartum. But if I can't read, that's not my fault. It's my baby's fault. So I'll read that again. It says, he breaketh me with breach upon breach. He runneth upon me like a giant. Okay. And so that's just stating the word. It doesn't give us an explanation. Like I said before, the tactic of the method of first appearance does not always tell us what a word means. And so this is one of those instances. The next one is 1 Chronicles chapter 20, verse 8. It says, these were born unto the giant in Gath, and they fell by the hand of David and by the hand of his servants. All right, just tell us that the people that are being referenced were born unto the giant. 2 Samuel 21:22 says, these four were born to the giant in Gath and fell by the hand of David and by the hand of his servants. So I'm guessing that the people who are being spoken of are Goliath's children, since they were born of the giant. And I'm guessing the giant would be the most famous giant in the Bible, which is Goliath. Okay, so I'm just going off of context clues. So let's go down here. 2 Samuel 21:16 says, and Ishbibenob, which was of the sons of the giant, the weight of whose spear weighed 300 shekels of brass in weight, he being girded with a new sword, thought to have slain David. And so we're going to put a pin here. We're going to come back to this verse because just to give you guys a more visual and tangible idea of what these giants were and how they moved, we're going to actually put some legs onto this verse and find out how much is 300 shekels worth of weight. So how heavy was his spear, to put in perspective. And so we're going to finish all of these, but we're going to come back to this at the end of this, at the end of Giants. And so just keep 2 Samuel 21:16 in your mind for a second. 2 Samuel 21:18 says, and it came to pass after this, that there was again a battle with the Philistines at Gob. Then Shibachai, the Hushathite, slew Saph, which was of the sons of the giant. 1 Chronicles 20, verse 4. And it came to pass after this, that there arose war at Gezer with the Philistines, at which time Shibachai, the Shushite, slew Sippai, that was of the children of the giant, and they were subdued. Okay, and then these last two, 2 Samuel 21, verse 20 says, and there was yet a battle in Gath, where was a man of great stature that had on every hand 6 fingers and on every foot 6 toes, 4 and 20 in number, and he was born to the giant. Okay, so this is a man who was a giant, and not only was he just large in stature, being a giant, but he had 6 fingers on both hands and 6 toes on both feet. And so instead of 20, he had 24 digits. First Chronicles 20, verse 6 says, and yet again there was war at Gath, where was a man of great stature, whose fingers and toes were 4 and 20, 6 on each hand and 6 on each foot, and he also was the son of the giant. All right, and so this guy, he had 24 digits, obviously bigger than average, obviously abnormal, and that's why it gets mentioned twice. And so coming back up here, let's park it on 2 Samuel 21:16, because it says here once again that Ishbenab, which was of the sons of the giant, the weight of whose spear weighed 300 shekels of brass in weight, he being girded with a new sword thought to have slain David. Okay, so 300 shekels, that sounds like a lot. That sounds pretty heavy. Sounds like something only a giant would be able to carry. Virginia, how can you say this was an average person? 300 shekels is probably a lot. Is it? So I know that Google is not the end all be all. There's a lot of wrong information up there, and I understand that. But it can be useful in a lot of instances. And so we're just going to go with that for right now. Okay. And so coming over to Google, we find here that how much does a shekel weigh? Because the verse said that, oh, it's kind of small. Let me make that bigger. There we go. Because the verse said, let me go back, that it says that his spear weighed 300 shekels. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of math. Okay. I know you feel like this is a safe place where you can avoid math, but it's okay. I'm going to be the one doing it. So you just sit back and relax. And so it says that his spear weighed 300 shekels. And so coming back over here, a shekel weighs between 8.3 and 8.5 grams. Okay, so let's even go with the heavier side. Let's go to 8.5. And so I have my, is it showing up? Okay, I want this to show up. So here we have our handy dandy calculator. Oh wait, where am I? Okay, so here we're going to pull up 8.5, because remember that was how much a single shekel weighs on the heavy side, times 300. That is 2,550. Okay, 2,550 sounds like a lot, Mrs. Ginny. Is it though? Let's see here. So now we're going to go back to Google. And we're going to do 2,550 grams, 2 pounds. And that is a little over 5.5 pounds. Okay, friends. And so this is not difficult. I'm not bending the brain right now. We're just doing simple multiplication and addition. A little more than 5.5 pounds, in perspective, especially, I'm thinking about this a lot, is about the weight of a newborn baby. It can be a lot more than that, of course, but it's in the average. Between 5 to 10 pounds is what your average baby will be. And so we're talking about the weight of a newborn baby. Okay. So you mean to tell me that somebody who is 40 feet high, somebody who's 20 feet tall, is going to carry around a spear to defend himself that only weighs the amount of a newborn baby? And a small newborn baby at that? Come on. Exactly. Yes. That's not heavy at all. That's no weight. 5.5 pounds. Are you serious? So would that be the weapon or the defense object, or I guess spear is more like an offensive object. So would that be the offensive object of choice for somebody who is humongous, somebody who is the size of your house, you know? No, that would be illogical. This would be obviously the weapon of choice for somebody who's just like 7 or 8 feet tall, somebody who is a little bigger than average, but not super big. I guess I don't know how much the average spear right now weighs. Maybe like 2 to 3 pounds. And so if you were just a little bit bigger, you would want one that's a little bit heavier. And so there's that one. We'll go back to the Bible. Yeah, and so it says here, and of course, this is still an estimation. We don't know the exact weight of a shekel back then, but we have good reason to believe that it was around this weight, that it was in this ballpark, okay? And so there's that. And so, friend, this idea of the giants being these humongous people who towered over trees and were like at the skyline is just absurd. And so now we are going to giants, and we're going to have a similar explanation that we're going to do, because there's another a little bit more calculating that we're going to do just to really put this idea to bed of these, just humongous. It's honestly so ridiculous. I mean, honestly, like, yeah, I mean, people, atheists, they'll say like, I can't believe that you believe that, somebody went to hell and came back and people rose from the dead, and that, all the different animals on the earth were put onto a boat and they didn't eat each other. I mean, you really expect me to believe that? I do expect you to believe that. And so, and so I'm taking a little tangent, so just hold tight. But and this is why when I'm debating other religions like Islam, to be a perfect example, or like Hinduism, I don't come at it from the perspective of you have these crazy beliefs. I come at it from the perspective of the foundation of your doctrines are incoherent. Like the idea that you can work your way to heaven or that Jesus is not God. I come at it from that perspective because, like, I know that Islam has, one of their stories that they teach is that Muhammad, like, rode a flying donkey all night and got to, like, another town or something. I'm not super well versed on false religions, so I just know, like, bits and pieces of their stories. But I think they have a story of, like, Jesus talking when he was in the crib, like when he was a very small child. I think Muhammad maybe like talked to a tree one time. I'm not 100% sure. But stuff like that, these outlandish stories. And so a lot of people, they'll say like, I can't believe that you believe in this religion because look at all these crazy stories. I don't come at it from that perspective because I believe stuff that people would say is crazy, and I believe that it's 100% true, and I feel like I can defend it. I feel like it's reasonable. And so I just come at it from a whole different perspective. But this idea that these people that the Bible refers to as giants were these humongous people, I feel like that it's just not, it's not crazy because it sounds outlandish. It's crazy because it's just not true, and the Bible does not back it up. That's why. And so I think that when we look at it, we have to look at it from the right perspective, and come to the right conclusions for the right reasons. So if you're like, this is crazy, this doesn't make any sense, then you're right. But you want to be right for the right reasons. So there's that. Hello, Marilyn. Good to have you. Is this your first time over here? I might have seen you one other time over here, but I'm glad you're here. When I was thinking about doing this stream, I was thinking about you, because I know that you're in a whole different time zone as me. I know you're in a whole different country as me. And so I wanted to have something that's a little bit more feasible for people who are in different time zones, because I think 8 p.m. my time is probably like the middle of the night for you. And so I'm happy that you're here. So my plan is working. And so jumping into giants, let's see what the Bible has to say about these people. And so starting in Deuteronomy 2:20, it says, that also was accounted a land of giants. Giants dwelt therein in old time, and the Ammonites call them Zamzummins. Okay. Numbers 13:33 says, And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants. And we were in our own sight as grasshoppers. And so we were in their sight. Okay. And so someone might get a little gung ho about this Numbers verse, where it says um, that they saw them as grasshoppers. And so surely, Virginia, if you're looking at somebody who's 40 feet tall, then you would feel like a grasshopper in their sight, and you would look like a grasshopper in their sight. Um, okay, yeah. If someone literally was 40 feet tall, or even 15 feet tall, I mean, even that is ridiculously tall, and I don't believe accurate. Then sure, yeah, they would look like a grasshopper. But even an adult to a little kids look like grasshoppers. And adults are not abnormally tall. They're just tall for their age, or they're just tall for their ethnicity or what have you. And so for me to look at my friend's kid and, who's like 3 years old and look at her and be like, you're just a little sprout, and it's so crazy because like people will forget like figurative language and they think that everything in the Bible is literal. Once again, I don't know if that's intentionally misunderstanding it, but we have a phrase in the English vernacular to this day that says, when you were knee high to a grasshopper. I remember, people saying that about me, and that's just a phrase used for when someone is really young and small. I remember when you used to do this and you used to play with these toys back when you were knee high to a grasshopper. And so it's just figurative. And so I believe that this passage right here, this verse, Numbers 13:33, is just figurative. Okay, so let's not get carried away with the Bible using colorful, expressive language like we still do. The Bible is Jesus. The Word is Jesus. And just as Jesus was divine and human, the Bible is divine and human. And so it uses human terminology. It talks in a way that humans talk. It's figurative. It's hyperbolic. And so we just shouldn't get all carried away. Okay. And I think that this is backed by the fact that we'll see later on, and we've already kind of proven a little bit, that a person who is, 2 stories high would not defend themselves with something that weighs 5.5 pounds. And we'll also look into how this idea of these people literally looking down on the average person like grasshoppers is just outlandish. Going back, Deuteronomy 2:11 says, which also were accounted giants as the Anakims, but the Moabites call them Emims. Okay, so giants went by a few different nicknames. It seems like they were known as the Zamzumans and the Emims, depending on which group was talking about them. Joshua 12:4 says, and the coast of Og, king of Bashan, which was the remnant of the giants that dwelt in Ashtaroth and at Edrei. Not sure. Joshua 13:12 says, all the kingdom of Og in Bashan, which reigned in Ashtaroth and Edrei, who remained of the remnant of the giants, for these did Moses smite and cast them out. Okay. So he got rid of the giants. It seems like the giants overall were not a very godly people. From what it seems, is like the giants were kind of bad most often than not. And that's maybe why they got wiped out for the most part. So that's just what I'm seeing from the text. Deuteronomy 3:13, and the rest of Gilead and all Bashan, being of the kingdom of Og, gave it unto the half tribe of Manasseh, all the region of Argob, which all Bashan, which was called the land of giants. Okay. And another thing that we find is that it seems like being a giant is extremely hereditary. Like this is not just something that would happen by accident. And so they all kind of live together in these groups, which kind of makes sense that if you and your family are all like 10 feet tall, at the very most, 7 or 8 feet tall, then in that time, they don't have like fast fashion. They don't have stores where they can go to. You have to your family makes all your clothes and makes all your shoes. And, you just kind of need a different standard of living if you're going to be in an area, if you're going to intermingle. Like I know personally, being a giant, I'm 6 feet tall as a woman. So I'm in the vast minority of women And so I know that I can't just go to a regular store and buy shoes. I have to buy all my shoes online. It's very rare I can buy shoes in person, because they almost never have my size. I wear a size 12. And so, it would be cool if I lived in a society that was full of giant women. So that way I'd been more catered to. And so it seems here like not only were the giants usually bad people, but also that they lived in their own communities because it was easier to cater to other big people if you're big and everybody is big. And also, I always growing up, I wasn't raised by my mom, and my mom wasn't around us. And so people would always ask, like, "Oh, are you guys tall? Because both your parents are tall, or is your dad just tall?" And so my dad is 6'4", and so obviously he's tall. And I would always say, "No, my mom's not tall, just my dad is tall." And then when I eventually found out how tall my mom was on paper, people were like, "How tall is your mom?" And I'd say she's 5'9". And 5'9" is tall for a woman. And I never realized that because I've been tall. I've been 5'9" since I was probably like 14. And so well, I passed 5'9" probably when I was like 14, sometime in either late middle school or early high school. And so 5'9" doesn't seem tall to me, but because everyone in my immediate family is tall. And so when people found out, like, your mom's 5'9", like, that is tall. And like, it's all just a matter of perspective. So I can understand the giants wanting to live in their own areas and having their own communities. Anyways, that's not the point. Joshua 17:15 says, "And Joshua answered them, If thou be a great people, then get thee up to the wood country and cut down for thyself there in the land of the Perizzites and of the giants, if Mount Ephraim be too narrow for thee." Okay, so referencing where the giants are again. Deuteronomy 3:11, "For only Og, king of Bashan, remained of the remnant of giants. Behold, his bedstand was a bedstand of iron. It is not in Rabbith of the children of Ammon. Oh, is it not in Ramoth of the children of Ammon? 9 cubits was the length thereof, and 4 cubits was the breadth of it, after the cubit of a man." And so once again, we're actually going to break down these measurements into our modern day terminologies and see just how big this man's bed was. And was it a bed that could accompany a 40-foot tall man, or a man who was 10 or 15 or 20 feet tall? We'll see. So we're going to come back to that in a minute. So just hold that there. Deuteronomy 3:11. If you're following along, you can put a pin in that. Genesis 6:4 says, "There were giants in the earth in those days." And also after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bare children of them, the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. And so we actually saw that verse last week, because that verse says the sons of God. Joshua 18:16 says, "And the border came down to the end of the mountain that lieth before the valley of the son of Hinnom, and which is in the valley of the giants of the north, and descended into the valley of Hinnom, to the side of Jebusai on the south, and descended to Engral." Okay. And lastly, Joshua 15:8 says, "And the border went up by the valley of the son of Hinnom unto the south side of the Jebusite. The same is Jerusalem. And the border went up to the top of the mountain that lieth before the valley of Hinnom westward, which is at the end of the valley of the giants northward." Okay, so because the Bible is just as much historically accurate as it is spiritually accurate, sometimes we get actual, locations and coordinates of where things were, just for God to reinforce to us that these are literal people who literally existed, and telling us where they were and what they did. And so I always appreciate that the Bible is just reinforcing that we can trust it because it's literal. Okay, so like I said, we're gonna park it right here on Deuteronomy 3:11, and it says, "For only Og, king of Bashan, remained of the remnants of giants. Behold, his bedstand was a bedstand of iron. Is it not in Rabbith of the children of Ammon? 9 cubits was the length thereof, and 4 cubits the breadth of it, after the cubit of a man." Okay, and so once again, we're going to go back to Google. Okay. All right. And so here it says, let me make this bigger for y'all. Um, it says, how long is a cubit? A cubit is about 18 inches. Okay, great. And it was usually measured from the length of the elbow to the tip of the middle finger. That is what is normally considered to be a cubit. Okay. And so they didn't have, meters and yards and feet back then. So we're going to convert this to our modern system of measurement. And so um, back to our calculator. Okay. And so remember it said that, oh wait, let me share this. Okay. And so remember how it said that, let me clear this. Hold on. Hold on. How do I? Okay. I don't normally use the calculator on my laptop, so I'm not really sure. But okay. So remember Evan said that his bed was 9 cubits in length. So we're going to do 9 times 18 because that's what a cubit is. 162. Yikes, Virginia. 162 cubits, that sounds like a lot. That sounds like it was a pretty big bed. Probably could fit a man that was 15 feet tall. Hey, well, let's break it down, folks. Let's prove all things. And let's go back to Google. And we got 162. Okay. Calculator, conversion chart. Okay. When I pulled it up earlier, it actually just showed me. Okay, let's see here. Unit conversion. 162. Okay. A long cubit. How long is a long cubit? Okay. I hate it when it shows me different results as I got on my phone than it does on the computer. All right, friends, stand by. We're gonna have to go back. Cubit to feet. Okay. Did they have the same unit of cubit as they gave me? Is it still 18? 162 cubits. Wait, what? Okay, maybe I need to do inches. Maybe is that what I put in before? Okay. 2 inches. It's 162. Okay, let's see here. Okay, I think that's what I saw earlier. And okay, so 162 cubits is 2,916 inches. So 2 feet. Okay, so that's 243 feet. Is that right? Inch to feet calculator. This isn't what I came up with earlier. Did I do something wrong? 9 cubits. What's the length thereof? Okay. And we did 9 times 18. And that's 162. Because earlier I got 9 feet. So why is it different now? Okay, hold on. We got to stand by. Okay, 1 cubit is 18 inches. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm twisted around. 1.5 feet. Okay, so 1.5 feet is about 18 inches. Okay, hold on. Did I put something in wrong? I feel like I did, because this is not what I got earlier. Okay, hold on. Okay, where do I go from here? Okay, we got 9 cubits times. Oh, wait, hold on. Am I doing feet when I should be doing inches? Okay, 1 cubit is 18 inches. Yeah. And so inches into feet is 243 feet. So wait, am I, or should I be doing 162 feet? Oh, 162 inches. 13. Okay, okay, that looks better. That looks like what I saw earlier. Okay. Okay. Oh, I think I got confused. What was the original problem? The original problem was 9 cubits by, wait, no, 9 times 18, because there's 18 inches in a cubit. So it was 9 times 18. And I think that's what I did on the calculator. Okay, let's go back here. So I did 9 times 18, and that was 162. And that's inches. Maybe I did it in feet and I should have done inches. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's where I got wrong. I converted to feet already, and I wasn't supposed to. I was supposed to end with feet, and I put feet in the middle. Okay, now we're back on track. I was like, wait, I'm confused now. Okay, so 9 cubits is 162 inches, and then 162 inches is 13 and a half feet. Okay, is everybody tracking with me? Because I was lost. And so, yes, his bed was 13 and a half feet long, approximately. And then it also says, going back to the verse, that it was 4 cubits in the breadth of it. Okay, so let's go back to our calculator and not get confused. And so 4 times 18 is 72. Okay, and so 72 inches in feet. Oh wow, I should have known that. That's 6 feet, because that's how tall I am. Okay, so Og here, the king of Bashan, he had a bed that was 13 and a half by 6 feet wide. Okay, and so something I did not look up that I want to look up now is, how big is a California king? Okay, let's see here. A California king is 72 inches wide by 84 inches long. So it's roughly 6 feet by 7 feet. Okay, interesting. The reason I lost connection with your screen share audio. Oh, I don't need screen share audio. Okay. And so, okay, I just wanted to give this by comparison, because it seems like the bed that the Og king of Bashan had was the same width that we have to this day. 6 feet for width in a bed is I don't know if it's standard, because California kings are extremely big. Actually, turns out California king is not the biggest. It's Alaskan king. So let's do the measurements of an Alaskan king. Yeah, okay. Alaskan king is apparently the biggest bed, which is 9 feet by 9 feet. Okay. And so this guy, he had an Alaskan king is wider than his bed was, but Alaskan king is not quite as long. And so getting back to the basics, getting back to the reason why we even did all of this, is that would a person who's longer than 13 and a half feet sleep in a bed that's only 13 and a half feet? No. Okay. And so it is unrealistic to think that somebody who is like, 15 or 16 or 20 or 30 feet tall is going to sleep in a bed that small. Okay. And why would this country, Bashan, have a king who is on the smaller side? Okay. We're going back, back in the day. So people were not elected how they are now, allegedly. We like to think that people are elected now, but are they really? That's for another discussion. And so people back then, it was a family thing. It was who was the most mighty, who was the most powerful, who could kill the previous king. That was how people became king back then. And so why would this man, Og, be the king of a place and he's on the smaller side? That doesn't make any sense. Usually you would think of the king as being one of the most mighty in the land, one of the most mighty in the area. And so this guy is less than 13 and a half feet tall, which makes sense because, if you were rich and powerful, would you have a bed that fits you perfectly? Or would you have a bed that gives you stretching out space? And I'm sure, he's a king, so he's not sleeping in that bed alone, folks. He has at least 2 or 3 concubines with him in there. And so he wants room to stretch out and be comfortable, and for all his friends that he's bringing into bed with him. And so why would he have a bed that is just big enough? And so we're talking about a man who's probably not even 13 feet tall. We're talking about a man who's probably closer to 10 feet tall, or maybe 12 feet tall, and has about a foot of headspace, your 6 inches on each end at least. And if it's, 6 feet wide, then he probably has room for, a couple people in there. And so, yeah, this is unrealistic to think that a man who is a king is one of the smallest people in his town. He's probably one of the biggest people in his town, in his kingdom. And so he's less than 13 feet tall. And so, and not only would he not be one of the smallest people in his own kingdom, but he wouldn't be one of the smallest people in the neighboring kingdoms either, because then they know that they would be easily overthrown. Okay, so just thinking practically about this whole thing. So this guy is probably on the bigger side. He's probably one of the bigger people, or he's at least really, really strong to some extent. And so we have absolutely no evidence anywhere when it comes to giant or giants that these people were, these gargantuan people. Okay, friend, it just doesn't come out in the wash when you check it with the Bible. It just doesn't hold water. This idea of these behemoth people walking around who are, excessively tall. It just doesn't add up. And so what you'll find is that the people back then, it was probably a lot more common, because for one, the population wasn't nearly as big as it is now. We're talking about a few million people. And so, the giants are mentioned quite a bit in the Old Testament. And so we're probably talking about maybe like 1 or 2% of the whole population of people at that time. I'm just throwing out numbers now. But we still have people who would be considered giants by the Bible standard to this day, and so let's look up some tall people. Why not? Tallest people. Okay. Let's see here. So I'm just looking up list of tall people just to get an idea, and I've been to Ripley's, believe it or not. I went to their location in Dallas, Texas with my mom, and I actually saw they had like a figure or a statue, or maybe it was an animatron, because I think it bent down, of this guy, Robert Wadlow. And it says that he is the tallest verified human, and he was 8'11". Okay. And so he's the tallest documented person. Now, of course, you can't take Guinness as the gospel, because they document like the oldest person to ever live was like 150 or 120 something, when we all know over here that the oldest person to ever live was 969 years old. Okay. And so I'm sure that there were other people who were taller before this Robert fellow. But this is important and this is relevant because this was not long ago. folks. It says here that he lived from 1918 to 1940. Okay, so this is recent. This man existed less than 100 years ago, and he was 8'11". And so to think that the giants of past were these people who were just completely supersized, just out of the world, Jack and the Beanstalk type folks is just unrealistic when we have documented, we have a picture of this man, this Robert man, who is a giant. I mean, and to say that this guy, I'm sure that when people looked at him, let's get a bigger closer up on this picture. I'm sure that when people looked at him, because this is him standing next to his dad, it says, and his dad, is an average height. So probably like 5'9", 5'10", 5'11". I'm sure that when he stood next to children and women, they looked at him like, you're probably looking at me like I'm a grasshopper, to bring it back to that verse. And so, yes, friends, the Bible does not back up this idea of these ridiculously large people. And we have evidence from not even that long ago. I mean, to give comparison as to how not long ago this was, I just mentioned that my dad is 6'4", and he was born in 1938. And so Robert Wadlow and my dad, briefly coincided on Earth at the same time. And we have lots of people. And of course, we all know about really tall people because we all know about the NBA, and we all know about Shaq and Yao Ming and Giannis, that, Greek guy, and all these different people, LeBron James, all these different people who are so tall and they look humongous, and we forget just how big they are because we only see them on TV. But if you were to get up next to them, like, if you were to like stand in a room next to a bunch of NBA players, or you'll notice like after the game when the reporters are standing next to them, like the reporters are like standing there, like looking up, holding the mic up to them because they're bigger. And so this is what checks out. This is what is reality. We're talking about people who are like 8, 9, 10, probably at the biggest, feet tall. Okay. And this man, Robert, he probably looks like he would have a spear that would be about 5.5 pounds. Okay. So bring it back to that verse, someone who's much bigger than that would need a spear much bigger than that. And he probably slept on a bed that was 13.5 feet long. Okay. And 6 feet wide. And so, yeah, folks, I really enjoy doing these. I feel like they're a lot of fun just to sit down and go verse by verse and look at these different passages and just show, like, I just don't understand where people get these wild-eyed ideas from. I really don't. Thankfully, for most of my life, I've been sheltered from a lot of crazy things when it comes to religion. Like I didn't go to like a snake handling church. I've never been a part of like churches where people were like rolling in the aisles and barking like dogs and throwing themselves on the ground. And so I've just been shielded from all that. So I don't know where people get these ideas from. It's just not from the Bible. They can have 1 or 2 verses that they might take out of context or take a little too literally or take too figuratively when it's supposed to be taken literally. That happens too. And they run off with it and go and make these whole doctrines based off of things like that. You could take that one passage in Joshua where it says that they look like grasshoppers to them. We look like grasshoppers to them, and build a whole doctrine around it and say that this is what the Bible teaches. That reminds me, another word I need to put on the list of things to talk about is the word firmament, because that word gets highly misconstrued. But yeah. And so that's pretty much the study for today, folks. Not a ton of references, not a ton of appearances of this word, but enough that we get some goofball doctrine from it. And there are people who will try to snow you on it and tell you that the Bible says this. I mean, no one's ever tried to evangelize me on this doctrine of really big giants, like, oversized giants. But it is something that I've heard before. It is something that I know that people who call themselves Christians believe. And if you are a Christian, then you should know why you believe what you believe. You should know what you believe. And now you are well versed on this topic. So yeah, kind of random, but hey, who knows? The next time you're in a group of people, you're at a party, and someone wants to talk about giants for some reason, you could be like, hey, giants are just people who are probably like 9 feet tall, not any bigger than that. Um, Lionel says that he enjoyed this and he'll bring it up to his grandma. Great. Thank you for passing that along. If your grandma knows how to work the internet, then you can send her the link to this video. And so she can get, caught up on the other Every Word Wednesdays, and that'll be cool. I know some old people are pretty tech savvy. I have a viewer, it's a lady I used to take care of, and she's in her 70s, and she knows how to work YouTube well enough to watch my videos, that is. And I'm working on my dad. I'm trying to get him to watch my videos, but he's having trouble with it. And Vic said this was interesting. I'm glad you found it interesting. I always try to talk about something that I think is at least halfway interesting for you guys. But so that's all. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. Please leave a like, share the video, if you liked it, and leave a comment afterwards so that other people will see it and know that other people enjoyed it. And so you can also leave ideas for words or phrases that you would like for me to deep dive into and talk about. I have a running list on my phone, but there's so many words and phrases in the Bible that let's all help each other and come up with ideas. Lionel says that he says, yeah, my grandma knows how to use tech. I'll share this with her. Oh, good. Very good. That's great. I appreciate that, Lionel. And so, yes, friends, I look forward to talking to you guys on Friday. If you missed the beginning, I'm seeking help for building an intro, building a theme song for these Wednesday videos. So if you know how to make videos, if you know how to make intros, or if you know someone who does and is willing to do it for free, then please send them my way, send them my email, and we can get corresponding in that. Or if you know of any good softwares to use that I can do it myself, then please let me know about that. But without further ado, I'm going to head on. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and I look forward to talking to you again on Friday. And you guys be blessed. Bye, y'all.